Howdy, 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 my name is Anachi Sasuke, and welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. It's October, which means it's Halloween, a really long Halloween, that has a Friday the 13th in it. I don't know what I'm going to do when that happens, but it's definitely a thing that's going to happen. So I decided, since it's the 1st of October, despite being a Sunday, that I would do an episode of this anyway, seeing as at the end of the month I'm going to play the Containment Breach game, Probably Cry Like a Little Girl. Except a little girl who hit puberty 10 years ago, so a little man. Anyway, in the last episode, we read a few things, and it looks like the last thing I read was the prosthetic parasite. So this episode, we're going to start with a painting and see how far we get. Within 40 minutes or an hour, whichever I feel like. Maybe I'll try to get to 173. I won't get to 173. But I'm curious to find out why it says the original. Or what the Leviathan is. So, first off, the painting. It's Euclid, and it's also a really short entry. SCP-151 should be kept in a locked storage compartment covered by an opaque cloth. The keys to the compartment should be kept in the custody of the site commander when 151 is not being researched. When research is being conducted, 151 may be kept in a locked laboratory provided it is always covered when not being used. So what are they? 151 is a 1 meter by 1.3 meters, 3 by 4 feet, oil painting, apparently from the perspective of someone underwater. And a subject who views the painting exhibits no initial effects. However, over a period of 24 hours, their breathing becomes increasingly labored, culminating in the death of the subject. Autopsies reveal that the subject's lungs have filled with seawater. Attempts to halt the drowning process by medical intervention have proven successful in prolonging the life of the subject, but have not stopped nor reversed the condition. The painting is not signed, but several names are written on the back. Addendum. 151 was found in an antique shop somewhere after the Foundation began investigating a series of unexplained drowning deaths. As that place is landlocked, the Foundation dispatched a team of plainclothes agents after being informed of the nature of the water in the victims' lungs, and that the victims had all been discovered on dry land. The agents discovered that names written on the back belonged to a group of artistically inclined students, all of whom disappeared during a study abroad program in somewhere. Investigation into their fate is ongoing and may provide clues as to the nature and origin of 151. Maybe they all drowned in the ocean someplace, or whatever kind of body of sea that is. Probably the ocean because salt water. So next up is the Book of Endings. And then let's see what kind of a book it is. Well, it's safe and huge, unless it's a really zoomed in picture, but judging by all the little thumb doodads, it's probably huge. Let me turn back on the mouse cursor. So judging by all the little thumb doodads, probably huge. 152 is to be kept in a locked chamber in Site 49, henceforth referred to as the Reading Room. The Reading Room is off limits to personnel below clearance level 2. The Reading Room will be equipped with a 1 ceiling lamp, 1 security camera, 1 scanner copier printer to be restocked with paper and ink as needed, 1 standard office chair, and 1 standard office desk upon which 152 will rest. When not in use, 152 is to be turned to its last page, so that any additions made to it can be immediately observed. A single guard will be posted outside the Reading Room to deter unauthorized persons from entering the Reading Room. All personnel are advised to remain quiet if they are near the Reading Room. Was it a library? 152 is a large, hardbound book with leather bindings. The paper inside resembles vellum, and is written upon in black ink. What is vellum? Because I know they talk about this in Dragon Age. Like, you can find things that are made of vellum. What is vellum? Fine parchment made originally from the skin of a calf. Ew. It's paper made of cow's skin. But now we know. The contents of the book consist entirely of a series of entries that describe apocalyptic events. Right, it is called the Book of Endings, isn't it? Which are not always XK class end of the world scenarios, but invariably deal with the extinction of humanity. The entries, have you ever noticed that humanity sounds kind of like, what's it? Manatee? Barbara, manatee. Okay, I had to do the VeggieTales thing so that I could remember if that's the word I wanted. The entries are arranged in chronological order, beginning with an unexplained spontaneous failure of the sun in 6000 BC, and ending with other events close to the present day. Many of the entries describe apocalypses caused or facilitated by objects that are or were in Foundation custody and are of a paranormal nature. There are also records of human extinction caused by more conventional means, such as nuclear warfare or deadly viral epidemics. Seems to be something on my screen. Okay. Each entry describes in some detail the events leading up to the calamity itself, the calamity Ganon, and the aftermath until the point at which the last human on Earth dies. Sounds kind of like, Plague Inc. I've beaten that game, like, twice ever. It has been observed that the entries in 152 change to whatever language the reader is most comfortable with, up to the point where the sentence structure can change significantly from reader to reader, or even begin using colloquialisms that only the reader would understand. Only the basic meaning of the entries remain constant. If multiple people are looking at 152, it will read in the personal language of whoever began reading first. Whomever. If no one is looking directly at 152, it will display the language of whomever read it last. Rarely, words will appear in the book that do not translate, and instead appear as horizontally arranged calligraphic characters which have not been matched to any known language. To the best of the Foundation historian, the best knowledge of Foundation historians, most of the information contained in 152 is accurate, diverging only at the point where the apocalypse occurs. In almost all cases, the difference is that a few key decisions were apparently made differently in 152's version of history, leading ultimately to humankind's annihilation. Probably just heard something. 152 resists all attempts to change or write in it. Inks, graphite, charcoal, and other marking materials do not adhere to the pages and are easily brushed off. That's kinda cool. Sorry. Lasers or other heat sources do not burn the paper. Close inspection has revealed that foreign substances are stopped from actually coming in contact with the pages. At least 5 micrometers of empty space are always present between the pages themselves and any foreign materials that might come in contact with them. For this reason, 152 does not decay, which also means that it has proven impossible to determine how old it is. It is self-updating with newly inked entries and new descriptions of how the last human died appearing at unpredictable intervals always on the last page of the book. The date that a new entry appears corresponds with the date given in the entry for the death of the last member of the human species. When space becomes an issue, extra pages appear along with the text, and the spine of 152 broadens accordingly. There have been blank updates to the book since it came into the Foundation custody. As with past events, 152 has proven to be up to date on current events up until a point at which a catastrophe occurs. Because recent entries frequently concern entities or groups of interest to the Foundation, including the Foundation itself, 152 is to be checked regularly for any information of importance. Addendum 1. With the acknowledgement made that letting this thing lie around where the public could find it is dangerous to us, is there any real reason to study it? Outdated hypothetical disaster scenarios aren't our concern. We've got plenty of real ones in the present to deal with. 05 somebody. Addendum 2. The book is accurate enough about pre-disaster Earth that makes it a decent guide to the present. Plus, it gives a little perspective on the big picture of what some SCPs could do if they got loose. I think all researchers were clear as ought to read the last 50 pages or so, just to drive home how important what they do here is. For want of a nail and all that, Dr. Jansen. Jansen, half of the entries in the last 50 pages show the Foundation screwing up and killing everybody, 05 blank. Like I said, it gives a little perspective, Dr. Jansen. Incident report. 15205. On the night of blank blank blank, the security guard on camera duty noticed that 152 was missing from the reading room. However, by the time she had finished reaching for the switchboard to report this, 152 had reappeared and there was a new entry on the last page. As this was the 5th such occurrence of sudden disappearance and reappearance, refer to incident reports 1 through 4, a simple test was conducted with a high-speed camera, a sensitive electronic scale upon which 152 was placed, and an alarm set to go off if the weight upon the scale abruptly changed. The next 3 updates to 152 all set the alarm off, and the high-speed camera revealed that 152 vanished from sight for exactly 1 second each time. Addendum 5. I posit that the book isn't actually being updated as such, it's actually being replaced, and each time it changes we are actually receiving a new edition of it. I would very much like to find out where these are coming from, Dr. Jansen. Interesting. Okay, so, that's that. Now it's time for the drain worms after I drink some water. So I looked at the screen wrong, and I combined the names of these two, so I saw the creeping hungry succubus and was very, very afraid. Anyway, now it's time for them drain worms, which are Euclid. Oh no. I thought it meant worms that drain, not worms in drains. Anywho. Specimens of 153 are to be kept isolated in acid-resistant containers measuring no less than 10 by 10 by 5 meters, partially filled with sewage and organic material at Bioresearch Area 12. Every 4 hours, both the level of organic content and the structural integrity of each container must be checked. Under no circumstances are these containers to be connected to any internal or external plumbing system. Specimens of 153 almost certainly still exist in the wild. Any reports of people mysteriously disappearing from showers and bathtubs must be investigated immediately. Ugh. Agents must be equipped with infrared and ultraviolet sensors to circumvent 153's camouflage. Specimens should be brought alive to Area 12 if at all possible. Okie dokie. 153 appears to be a species of nematode, roundworm, that can reach up to blank meters in length and blank centimeters in diameter. Specimens of 153 live in sewers and drain pipes, and while specimens of 153 can live off of most any organic material, they prefer to consume animal tissue. Specimens of 153 excrete a highly acidic substance similar to data expunged from their mouths and gullets, and they have the ability to camouflage themselves both outside and in. Why would they need to camouflage the inside of themselves? What, do they want to trick things into thinking they're not being eaten after dissolved with acid? 153 has developed a hunting technique where a specimen will swim up a shower or bathtub drain, dissolve the drain cover with its acidic saliva, and camouflage its gullet to look like a standard drain. Shortly after a human enters a shower or bathtub, the specimen data expunged back down the drain, leaving almost nothing behind. This entire process takes less than blank seconds. Specimens of 153 are to be kept isolated from each other except under controlled breeding conditions. Dr. Kavanlanskaya. Incidents in blank suggest that specimens of 153 have started attacking people through sink drains, toilets, data expunged. These sound like the things from Dreamcatcher. Researchers are investigating how such an apparently simple animal can develop such relatively sophisticated hunting techniques. Note 3. Dr. Kavanlanskaya has received approval to start a breeding research program with 153 with emphasis on genetic engineering. The program data expunged as well as a potential method of organic waste disposal. A controlled release of 153 instances has been proposed as a potential containment method for stalling the spread of 2717. Approval pending. Shall we take a peek at what that is? It is a complex of living animal tissues that are grown to line roughly 4 linear kilometers of sewer pipes beneath Blank Pumping Station in Amsterdam. Well, that sounds like it's going to be terrifying whenever we get there. Okay, so next up is offensive bracelets. Now, is that offensive like battle bracelets or offensive like they curse at you? Okay. 154 is to be kept within Weapon Locker 8, so I guess they are weapons then. In Armed Research Site 47. Personnel wishing to... Wait, so is that Site 47 or Armed Research Site 47? As in there's another 46 sites that are just for armed research. And are they researching arms or are they researching weapons? Because they are bracelets, they could be researching arms. Personnel wishing to research or use item must submit the required request forms. Anyone attempting to remove the item without clearance or from outside the facility is to be terminated on site. Well, at least they just straight up used the word terminated this time. 154 is a pair of simple bronze bracelets, completely circular and large enough to comfortably hang off the arm of most people. Spectrograph analysis has proven that the item is composed entirely of copper, tin, arsenic, and traces of other slight impurities. How do you make something out of arsenic? I thought all you could make out of arsenic was dead spies. So, when both bracelets are worn on the same arm, the wearer concentrates on them with arms extended in a depiction of a traditional nooked crossbow, bowstring pose. Where did I get crossbow from? Pose. achieved by having the arm with the bracelets completely extended in front of oneself, with the opposed arm extending up to the elbow of the fully extended arm. A large, indistinct, incorporeal bow will form in the extended hand, and both bracelets will glow lightly, whatever. From that point onwards, 154 can be treated as a bow, until the pose or concentration is broken, which results in the bracelets reverting to normal. There is no actual bowstring, but completing the motion of pulling it achieves the same effect. When the bowstring is pulled and released, the bones of the arm will be The bones of the arm will be forcibly ejected from the extended limb, traveling at a straight path at speeds recorded over 300 meters per second. The missing bones and resulting damage to the arm are quickly regenerated, and the weapon is capable of being fired again within minutes. Tests using subjects possessing multiple arms/hands, such as SCP-1884-A1, have demonstrated the ability to fire 154 several times, with the bones of different arms being used with each successive firing. The regeneration implemented by the item is limited, only affecting the damage inflicted by the weapon itself. This regeneration seems to be an automatic action and will continue in almost all situations. Both firing the weapon and the resulting regeneration are understandably painful, and participants which have used the item once are generally disinclined to repeat usage. However, there are found to be some occasional abnormalities regarding the regeneration. Most often this manifests simply as minor mutations of the original subject, such as changes in size, pigmentation, and structure of the original organelles. These are an uncommon occurrence, capable of happening during any use of the weapon, though generally tend to occur during repeated usage. There are more drastic abnormalities, though these are much rarer and coincide with highly frequent use. These mutations can range from anything such as the growth of extra joints and digits in the affected arm, to a complete change of the chemical or physical structure of the limb. One test subject unknowingly had the bone matter within his arm converted into an unstable explosive compound, only discovering the fact when it detonated, causing 2 fatalities and 3 casualties. Another had the entire bone and muscular structure morphed into fully functional serpentine physiology. That's kinda cool. It was a footnote. Permitted to be used in testing with its approval. Was able to fire 5 shots from 144 within a minute. Testing ceased at its request following 184B becoming aggressive due to pain associated with the use. Okay, I wonder what that's all about. Also, that's kind of terrifying. That's kind of really terrifying. Oh hey, I can make a bow out of light, and there goes my arm. No wait, it's back! Also, although that would probably be a really, really good weapon for Piccolo. Next up is the Infinite Speed Computer, which is safe. Okay, that's nice. 155 is contained in a heat-treated and radiation-shielded containment chamber at site someplace. Recovered documentation and the reverse-engineered compiler for 155 are available for all personnel with sufficient clearance on site-blank secure file server, but execution of programs on 155 may only be performed with prior permission from at least 2 Level 3 senior researchers. Please see Document 155 Exec 1 for radiation and thermal safety procedures for the safe operation of 155. As of Incident 155-8, experimentation on 155 has been suspended pending decontamination of 155's former containment chamber and relocation to a new containment chamber. All tasks intended for execution on 155 must now be triple-checked to prevent the possibility of non-halting execution. Well, that doesn't sound safe at all. 155 is a complex electronic construct consisting of a highly modified Cray CS6400 supercomputer, a dedicated radioisotope thermoelectric generator, and a device that has yet to be fully reverse-engineered. 155 was recovered from the basement of Prometheus Labs' primary research laboratory by elements of Mobile Task Force MU4, the debuggers, following the destruction of the facility and subsequent Foundation intervention. When a program and accompanying data is loaded into 155 and executed, 155 generates a spherical temporal distortion field with a radius of approximately 5 meters. Within this sphere of influence, the passage of time is rapidly accelerated, resulting in a hyperbolic increase in the effective processing power of 155. I just made a Dragon Ball Z joke, and then you're gonna drop that on me? Alright. Execution begins slowly as the processing hardware of 155 is dated, but its effective processing power approaches infinity after approximately 8 minutes and 14 seconds of execution. From fragments of documentation recovered from Prometheus Labs, 155 was used to perform massive calculation jobs that would have taken months if not years of processing time with conventional computing devices. Despite its capabilities, operation of 155 is highly dangerous as heat and radiation generated by 155 are trapped and accumulate during operation, forming a sort of event horizon of energy that is released when execution ends. The execution of programs that exceed 6 minutes results in high enough radiation generated that the containment chamber in which 155 is contained must be decontaminated before research personnel may re-enter. Alright. Incident 155-8. On blank blank blank, Dr. Somebody entered a flawed program into 155 that resulted in a non-halting execution in infinite loop. After attending, researchers and technicians realized the error, an emergency shutdown of 155 was initiated, but it could not be fully stopped until execution had exceeded 8 minutes and 3 seconds. At this point, an intense wave of heat and radiation melted through the containment chamber, resulting in 11 casualties and the total destruction of the C-wing of Site Blank. 155 only received minor damage in the incident, but experimentation is suspended while revised safety procedures are under review, and replacement parts are procured to repair components damaged by the accelerated aging. So, if you do the thing where, like with robots, when you give them if you give robots a code that they can't solve, presumably they get caught in a loop and explode. But this thing gets caught in a loop and just heats up by infinity, and then melts buildings. So that's cool. That sucks. But it's still cool. Next is reanimating pomegranate? Okay, well it's not understood. It looks tasty though, but it's not understood. 156 is to be kept in refrigerated storage unit 19C, except when removed for experimentation. Subjects infected by 156 are to be restrained and monitored for their own safety. Okay, that doesn't sound cool anymore. From September 21st to March 21st, infected subjects should be kept within a secure storage unit, unless the experiment's parameters indicate otherwise. Both storage facilities should be monitored by security camera. The termination and autopsy of D-Class personnel assigned to 156 should be delayed until after March 21st. No personnel are permitted to consume 156 except D-Class personnel unless approved by a level 3 staff member. Why would anyone ask to eat something that results in insanity for 4 months followed by dead? Excuse me, 6 months followed by dead. Let's find out! 156 is a group of exactly 181 pomegranate arrows. I didn't know those things had an actual name. Cool. The number of instances of 156 is constant. When one is ingested or destroyed, it is replaced instantaneously with a new one among the largest group of contiguous instances. Otherwise, the instances can be moved around freely. After leaving the group, i.e. after an instance is touching no other instance, the instance will spoil normally, after which a new instance will appear. When all instances are destroyed simultaneously, all 181 instances will reappear randomly at the location of one of the destroyed arrows. Attempts to measure the time between destruction of one instance and the appearance of a new one using high-speed cameras have so far failed. Dang. If 156 is ingested between March 21st and September 20th, subjects display no signs of infection until noon of September 21st, when all vital processes abruptly cease. A similar effect is observed immediately when 156 is ingested after September 21st. Despite being technically dead, post-mortem examinations of subjects have been unable to discover a cause of death. Subjects appear to have been in perfect health aside from any pre-existing conditions. While dead, subjects do not show any signs of decomposition, though the bodies of many subjects began displaying bruising and scarring consistent with torture. While the majority of subjects suffer these wounds, not all do, and no reliable formula has been discovered to predict which subjects will be affected. Infected subjects remain in this dormant state until noon of March 21st, when life processes restart? Subjects remember little of the intervening time period. While most subjects are entirely unaware that any time has passed since their apparent death, some claim to recall a pale white male face in a wilting pomegranate tree. Subjects will continue to die and reanimate annually on September and March 21st, respectively, until killed by another cause. Reanimation only occurs from deaths caused by ingesting 156. After undergoing a single death reanimation cycle, subjects began displaying high levels of distress and paranoia as time approaches September 21st, even if they have not been made aware of the death reanimation cycle. Furthermore, subjects will take extreme lengths to avoid taking any sort of risk or danger to their person, even if they had displayed risk-taking behaviors prior to ingesting 156. Over the course of multiple death reanimation cycles, these psychological symptoms become more pronounced. At the same time, physical symptoms during the dormant period increase in intensity for the subject suffering from them. Eventually, physical wounds on subjects will begin to emulate burns and puncture wounds. Many subjects gain a phobia of dogs and dead plants after 3 to 5 reanimations. After several deaths caused by 156, the ocular tissue undergoes necrosis in many subjects. This tissue does not reanimate with the rest of the body. Often, after 10 or more reanimations, reanimation of bodily processes will occur, but the subject will fail to regain consciousness, entering a comatose state. Death and reanimation continues annually even after subjects have reached this stage. 156 came to the attention of the Foundation after an incident in Greece someplace, after blank people died on September 21st, 19-something, without apparent cause. The Foundation became involved after locals reported the return of several of the dead who had been interred in above-ground vaults the following spring. After questioning these subjects, all reported having attended a party at the house of one blank blank, who had been buried and was found asphyxiated in her coffin. 156 was discovered within the house despite the intervening 6 months since the incident. Testing commenced on D-Class personnel on August blank, 19 blank. DE-15624, the first test subject, died on September 20-something, 19-something, and was autopsied. No cause of death could be found. Subject was left under monitoring and storage. On March 20-something, 19... Why not just say the day? You already said it's 21st of both of them. Subject began to show brain activity and subject's heart began beating despite the body having taken significant damage during the autopsy. They expired shortly thereafter without regaining consciousness. Errol was given SCP status and longer-term testing was ordered. And that was what now? Euclid? Okay. So, next up is the Mimetic Predator. That sounds interesting. Looks, When not being used in an experiment, 157 is to be stored in its cryptobiotic form in a dry, airtight container. It is estimated that 157 can survive in this condition for at least 10 years. Specimens needed for experimentation can be removed from storage and given water, then food to restore them to a usable state. Personnel working with an active 157 colony are cautioned not to eat, drink, change clothing, or apply any substance to their body in the presence of 157. Foundation MTF agents are authorized to administer Class A amnestics to any survivors or witnesses of wild 157 attacks. 157 is a previously unknown microscopic animal in the tardigrade phylum, adapted to live on land as a predator. Like other tardigrades, 157 is extremely resistant to environmental damage and can enter a cryptobiotic state when no food is present. 157 normally exists as an amorphous mass composed of millions of individual organisms, and in this form it can slowly crawl and climb. 157 colonies are predatory and can attack insects and small animals by engulfing them and then slowly dissolving their prey with digestive enzymes. Humans and other large prey are not normally attacked directly by 157 colonies, as they are too large to engulf, and long-term contact is necessary for 157 to successfully feed. The organism has developed an alternative method of achieving such contact. 157 colonies possess an innate telepathic ability. When in the presence of prey that is too large to directly attack, 157 colony will use telepathy to present the illusion of something its prey wants to eat, wear, or apply to its body. 157 is highly toxic when eaten. Someone having done so requires antidotes to redacted and redacted within 20 minutes, as well as immediate gastric surgery to remove the portion that was eaten. When applied to human/animal skin, 157 will produce an anesthetic to encourage prey to ignore pain and leave the organism in place. It then dissolves and consumes the skin within 30 minutes to 2 hours. Dead prey is rapidly consumed and 157 will grow significantly as it feeds. When reaching a size of 5 kilograms, 157 will split into smaller colonies that move off in search of new prey. When in the presence of 2 or more individuals, 157 will have an inconsistent appearance. It may appear to be a food item to one person and an article of clothing to another. This can serve as a warning and prevent exposure to the organism. Addendum. Note that due to its resilient nature, 157 can be split into smaller pieces, boiled, microwaved, etc. and remain alive and dangerous. 157 capture incidents. 157-1 blank blank. Found with extensive scalp damage after mistaking 157 for a bottle of shampoo and applying some to his hair. Victim was apparently immune to 157 anesthetic and began screaming, attracting the attention of his wife, who had been eating a snack. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. He had a pastrami sandwich on his head and it was eating him. Victim was treated for chemical burns. Captured alive, victim and wife given Class A amnestics and released. Incident 2. Blank blank, found partially consumed by 157 in his office at blank company after apparently believing 157 was a pair of socks and wearing them. Victim bled to death after feet and lower legs were mostly dissolved. Incident 3. Standard monitoring of police reports revealed a missing persons case where the investigating officers observed a couch slowly attempting to crawl towards the door of the victim's apartment. Couch initially sealed an area by police. Foundation agents later determined it to be an unusually large variant of 157 and contained the specimen. Amnestics administered. Although large enough to attack humans directly, the specimen prefers to use its telepathic ability to attract prey in the manner of smaller 157 colonies. That's weird. So, next up is the Soul Extractor. If that's safe. I mean, okay, yeah, once again, the ratings are based off of how easy it is to get them. But when it's something called the Soul Extractor, yeah, okay, Euclid. There's experiment logs and everything. There's 2 experiment logs at least. 158 is installed in Operating Theater 7 in Bio-Research Area 12. Personnel are not to be allowed in, nor is power to be supplied to the room unless they have submitted and had approved proper clearance requisition in the form to the Chief of Research, Professor, or somebody. Personnel wishing to use the device must request and read the entire transcribed instruction manual in full. During the device's use, 2 armed guards remain on standby outside the room at all times. In the event of an accident, all power must be cut to the room instantly and guards are to examine the room carefully for any signs of misconduct. Misconduct will be punished in a manner decided by the Chief of Research on a case-by-case basis. Why would anyone want to use something called the Soul Extractor? Let's find out! 158 is a large mechanical arm, similar to one that one might find in an automated factory, although the end attachment is unusually shaped, resembling a pointed tridactyl claw. Its optimal placement is to be installed and suspended upside down, its base attached to the ceiling in a room that has been built to accommodate. A series of cables protruding from the base ends and some are connected to a complex mobile console, complete with visual display unit and full keyboard. So a screen. The others should be connected to a working power supply for the devices to be operated successfully. At the bottom of the console, there's the dispensing device with attachments for a container roughly 7.63 inches in width and 7 inches in height. The arm, cables, and console have sustained fire damage, so this is purely cosmetic and does not affect the device's performance. When activated, the device will take 20 minutes to boot up and become fully functional. When used correctly upon a living organism that displays cognition, 158 will remove an unknown substance and transfer it through the dispensing device beneath the console. The optimum container for this substance is a glass jar or beaker that fits the attachments. After this action is performed, the organism that it was performed on will cease all higher brain functions, with only the activity in the brainstem continuing. The subject will not respond to external stimuli and will not exhibit any movement beyond basic reflex actions. The substance removed is gaseous, though its overall appearance and properties differ from subject to subject. The substance is an indefinite source of kinetic, electrical, heat, and light energy. Although the rate and output again differ from subject to subject, the average is relatively low. The device was found in late 2007 in some place within a burned out hospital that had been in apparent disuse for a large discernible period of time. Rough estimates would put it at over 5 years. Along with the device was a badly damaged owner's manual, which contained instructions on how to use the device. These instructions have since been transcribed and copied numerous times, with a single copy always present in the containment room. While the instructions clearly state how to maintain and use this device, the chapters chronicling who built it and what exactly it did were too badly damaged to be read, requiring a process of trial and error to find it. See Experiment Log 158AA. The device is also capable of reversing the extraction, placing the same or a different substance back into the subject. See Experiment Log 158AG. When this action is performed, the subject will regain all cognitive and higher brain functions, but the total results differ depending on whether or not it was the original substance extracted from the patient that was replaced. Addendum. Dr. Blank suggests experimentation with D-Class personnel and electronic equipment to attempt to reproduce 168, 1875, 2306, or similar phenomena, pending. Well, we're almost at 168, so we'll find out what that is soon. Addendum 1AA. Inspired by the previous addendum, Regulator Blank has hit on the ingenious notion of using 158 on a test subject, then exposing the body to 217 until the virus run its course, and finally re-injecting the contents back into the transmogrified body. Blank and Blank are extremely excited about this proposal, and have arranged a meeting with all 12 of the Blank to discuss the far-reaching benefits of such a technique. Let's just take a peek at whatever the heck that is. It's Keter class. Okay. Okay. Alright. We'll figure that out later. If anybody wants me to come back and check these experiment logs, let me know in the comments and I'll do that. But for now, I'm gonna ignore them. I said, okay. So, next up is the perfect lock. It's safe. That's always nice. 159 is currently kept in a secure storage locker at site someplace. Knowledge of 159 is restricted to those of level 3 or higher, and access is restricted to level 4 or higher. 159 may not be used by any personnel except for extenuating circumstances. 05 Command may order 159 to be moved at any time that it becomes necessary to use 159 to prevent a destructive scenario. In the event that 159 is utilized in this way, it is to be powered by a dedicated high-efficiency generator and a spare supply of fuels to be kept on hand. There is to be at least 2 personnel on standby during 159's operation at all times. Description: 159 has the appearance of a standard neon sign reading "Open", of the style commonly found in small businesses. How is that a lock? When 159 is displayed through the window of a building and deactivated by removing it from a standard powered outlet, as opposed to utilizing the on-off switch, the building will become impossible to enter by any means. The locking effect ceases immediately when it is reattached to a power outlet. If 159 is switched off and then removed from its power outlet, the effect will not activate. While the locking effect is active, the structure with which it is displayed within will become effectively indestructible from the outside. Building materials will withstand forces that will normally destroy them, up to and possibly surpassing moderate artillery bombardment. The affected structure will remain completely undamaged. Testing has shown that protected structures will be unharmed by heat, hurricane-speed winds, kinetic force, undermining, tunneling, explosive charges placed on the outside of the structure, electrical current, microwave, ultraviolet, X-ray, neutron, and gamma radiation, and vehicular impact. How was running it into a car come after all that other stuff? Persons with a structure affected by 159 may leave at any time but may not re-enter until it's deactivated. The effect persists if windows, doors, or other portals are open, with outside forces continuing to yield as if they were closed. Buildings affected by 159 will continue to receive utilities such as running water and electricity. However, supplies will be strained of foreign materials and chemicals upon entering 159's boundaries. Additionally, a buffering effect appears to prevent forces such as shockwaves and extremely high heat from penetrating the surface of the affected building. D-Class within the structure during artillery tests reported that the concussive forces rendered by test weaponry were greatly muted to the point that an open container of water did not react. If a piece of 159's tubing expires, it may be replaced by a matching part. 159's effect will manifest whether or not there is neon tubing installed. Personnel are to replace 159's neon parts if they fail. It will fail to activate it if it is unplugged during a power outage. That's interesting. It was safe without being terribly deadly. So let's check out the Predator drone, which is Euclid. It looks like a normal drone, but it's called Predator Drone, so it probably does something terrible. Let's see, 160 is kept in a secure biocontainment chamber at site someplace. It is to be fed live prey in the form of a rabbit or other animal of similar mass once per week, with feeding to be performed via automated delivery system only. Experimentation with 160 may only be performed with prior permission from at least 2 level 3 personnel, and any personnel entering the chamber must wear an armored suit at all times. Description: 160 appears to be a quadriflyer unmanned aerial vehicle, a UAV, with a diameter of approximately 1.1 meter at its widest point, similar to the Redacted model manufactured by the Redacted Corporation. It is devoid of any identifying marks or manufacturing labels, though visual inspection of 160 has revealed signs of scratches and other superficial damage indicating that prior identifying labels may have been removed. 160 operates continuously and completely autonomous from any identified control source and exhibits behavior similar to that of predatory birds. It will actively hunt prey such as rodents and other small animals, and upon locating such prey, dive down at high speeds and impale its prey with what appears to be a metallic proboscis. Like a mosquito. Analysis of its prey shows that it then injects a highly caustic substance that liquefies the internal organs and extracts the resulting slurry. 160 will generally avoid humans and larger animals, but has been recorded using its proboscis in self-defense. Injuries inflicted by 160 are extremely painful and can cause death via liquefaction of vital organs or internal bleeding. Further research on 160 is underway, but has proven difficult due to its continuous operation. Tranquilizer darts are ineffective, as 160 appears to be composed entirely of non-biological components, and requests to attempt a low-intensity electromagnetic pulse to disable it have been rejected due to possible unforeseen damage. 160 was discovered by Foundation agents on blank 2000-something, following multiple reports of household pets from the town of Redacted disappearing and subsequently found dead under unusual circumstances. 160 was quickly identified and lured into a transport vehicle by a containment team and subsequently taken to site blank. A search of the area turned up over blank desiccated small animals including house cats, rabbits, wild rodents, and miniature dogs. So, I guess this is the proboscis that it injects them with the caustic death juice. So, I was about to stop, but that exclamation point on the pinwheel of doom's got me curious, so let's see how long that is. Okay, we'll read the pinwheel of doom, and then I'll stop, because I need to see this. Let me drink some water real quick. So, all 3 instances of 161 are to be kept in separate containers. Yeah, alright, containers. In Containment Locker 34 Zeta. Each container is to be triple locked, with all 9 keys to go to separate members of senior staff. Once every 3 months, each individual instance of 161 is to be removed from containment. Current scheduling allows for only 1 instance to be removed in any given month. When removing 161, the remover is required to not be a member of senior staff. However, they are to be accompanied by 3 members of senior staff with the keys at all times that 161 is out of containment. The remover is to be dressed in a full environmental suit with extra reinforcement around the wrist joints to avoid contact. Senior staff accompanying the remover are to be dressed similarly. Before removal, a cell is set up for activation of 161. 2 D-Class will need to be requisitioned. 1 D-Class is to be strapped into a chair and mobilize their left arm at a right angle to their body. It is imperative that their wrist be locked in so that they cannot turn their hand or move the angle of 161. The 2nd D-Class is to be strapped to the wall directly in front of the 1st D-Class's hand. When removed, 161 is to be immediately moved to the prepared room. 161 is to be placed into the locked hand of the immobilized D-Class. Once the D-Class has activated 161 once, it is to be removed from them and returned to containment. Both D-Class are then to be returned to general populace, but are never to be assigned together. Alright. Description. There are currently 3 copies of 161 in Foundation control. 161 appears to be a brightly colored plastic child's pinwheel with a The Factory stamp on the back. Oh, jeez. Of course it's from the factory. Why wouldn't something called the Pinwheel of Doom come from the factory? 161 only displays its unique properties when it is held in the bare hand of a human being. Approximately 3 to 7 seconds after firmly grasping 161, the holder will find himself made aware of how to activate the device. From this point on, the holder is completely convinced that 161 is capable of emitting energy pulses of varying strength. This conviction only affects the bearer, as no one else can see these pulses, nor do they appear to do any actual damage. However, anything the wielder destroys with these energy pulses becomes no longer capable of affecting the wielder, even when no longer in contact with 161. Walls affected by the energy pulse can be walked through by the wielder, and living beings so affected not only cannot touch the user, but anything wielded by said human beings will be unable to touch the user of 161 as well. A minor side effect causes the wielder of 161 to develop megalomania and delusions of grandeur. Addendum 1. Original procedures altered when a security guard with no prior knowledge of 161 broke into the containment locker and began using it freely. After security contained the breach, researchers discovered that if 161 were not used occasionally, the artifact would begin to radiate a telepathic lure. The lure would affect those with low self-esteem and willpower and call them to 161. At that point, they would take the artifact in hand and begin to use it as described. Addendum 2. A junior researcher attempting to cultivate the approval of senior staff noticed an unusual trend in beings and objects supposedly destroyed by 161. Investigation into beings affected by 161 before containment revealed all of them had committed suicide, many within a year of being affected. A review of objects affected by 161 showed that, while many were still standing, most had fallen apart, and those still together showed signs of decay many years in advance of where they should be. A review of researchers who had been affected by 161 revealed that over 50% of them had since died. Of those that remained, interviews consistently contained the idea that life just wasn't fun anymore. As of this finding, 161 is now exclusively to be used on Class Ds and never near support walls. Use of 161's effect for the acquisition of SCP objects that create an environment hostile to terrestrial life, including 2933, has been proposed to several research staff. Approval denied. See Addendum 4. Well, I would, except there's not. So, I want to stop here. In the next episode, we'll check out Ball of Sharp, followed by Old Castaway, Squid Tumors, The Creeping Hungry Sands of Tool, probably Teenage Succubus. Probably not going to be able to have ads on that video. Infinite Labyrinth. Maybe the Sentient Calculator. Really depends on how long they are. I'm aiming for 173, because since 173 is what starts the SCP Containment Breach game, I'd like to have read about it before I get there. So, this has been Anachi Sasuke. This was episode something. 42 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. If y'all liked it, give it a like. A subscribe would be groovy too, but you don't have to if you don't wanna. So, I will see y'all in the next one. Happy Halloween month and all that jazz, and I will see you next time. I said that already, but oh well. Later.